Natural limits to evolution. 3. Response to evolutionary biologist.
An atheist evolutionary biologist asked me a question about natural limits of evolution. I respond to his question below.
Atheist, your quote, "Natural selection can fine-tune a species to fit its environment. If so, what happens to its descendants if the environment changes? Will they change to be fine-tuned again?
Can you tell me what are the limits?"
My response.
Item 1. We observe that any given species can adapt within a certain range. With natural limits, the adaptation is not infinite. So, if the environment changes a little, e.g., a drought versus a rainy year, the species can change a little to adapt. E.g., finch beaks can get bigger or smaller to match the environment. However, if the environment changes significantly, the species cannot adapt, and it goes extinct. That is why so many species went extinct with advancing or retreating ice ages. And that is why the dinosaurs, mostly, died off after the KT meteor impact. And that is why so many species and genera died off with the 5 major extinction events. The reason why they die off is because there are natural limits on how far they can change to adapt to a changing environment. Item 2. In addition, genetic load kills off species as well, by destroying genetic information needed to sustain the species.
The original genetic information came from intelligent design, used to create the higher taxa, kingdom, phylum, class, order. But when we leave the lower taxa to their own environmental adaptive devices, they can adapt within certain limits, determined by the genetic information. And so they can adapt within certain limits to changing environments. But when the environment changes beyond those limits, the organism needs completely new complex genetic information that it does not have, and that micro-evolution does not have the ability to generate. And so the species goes extinct. Item 3. Observation. The average lifetime of most species is about 5 million years, in the fossil record, even when the environment does not change very much. This contradicts the prediction of naturalistic mega-evolution, which says that in a stable environment the species should not die off. However, this observation is consistent with the intelligent design model mentioned above. I.e., it requires intelligent design to create and provide the genetic information needed for the creation of the higher taxa, kingdom, phylum, class, order. And after that, the higher taxa can diversify into species and genera, within a limited local bush of descent. And after that, genetic load increases in each species, until the load passes a critical threshold. After that threshold is reached, the species experiences genetic catastrophe and it goes extinct, even in a stable environment. On average, this takes about 5 million years per species, based on the fossil record.
Some species in deep-sea environments experience less genetic degradation because they are not as exposed to solar radiation and natural land-based mineral-based radiation that causes damage in land-dwelling creatures.
Item 4. The natural limits have been empirically confirmed.
A. By breeding experiments on a wide variety of species, where the species become less robust and die off if you change them too much. B. Artificial selection for increased productivity shows clear limits past which it is impossible to push the production of meat or milk, for example, past a limit in each species.
C. Natural selection in the wild also shows clear limits. D. Finch beaks show cyclic variation within certain limits in the wild.
The finch beaks do not vary outside those limits in the wild.
Item 5. The natural limits have been confirmed by both math and empirically confirmed theory.
A. Random chance variations are limited by the number of material resources in the biosphere, e.g., the number of atoms in the biosphere, limited to no more than 10 to the power of 40 trials in the biosphere, or 10 to the power of 80 particles in the universe. B. Random chance variations are limited by the time resources available to the biosphere, e.g., 4 billion years, or 14 billion years for the universe. C. Natural selection is death limited by the number of genetic deaths needed to fix each beneficial mutation in the species. There are simply not enough species members available for the number of genetic deaths needed to fix more than 2 to 3 beneficial mutations. That is far too low for the creation of any higher taxa or even significantly different species or genera. D. Natural selection is rate limited. Try to push the rate higher than that limit, and the entire species goes extinct, because the number of genetic deaths needed kills the entire species population. E. Natural selection is time limited. No more than 2-3 beneficial mutations can be fixed in a species population in the 5 to 10 million years available, based on the fossil record, for the evolution of completely new genera, or higher taxa. In contrast, you need thousands of mutations to occur and be fixed for the creation of a new genus.
Conclusion. 1. Microevolution has strict limits that have been empirically confirmed by
A. Artificial breeding.
B. Artificial productivity breeding. C. Observations of natural selection in the wild, over decades. 2. Random chance variations are limited by
A. The material resources of the biosphere. B. The time resources of the biosphere.
3. Natural selection is limited by
A.
genetic death limits, B. rate limits, and
C. Time limits of the biosphere.
4. So, microevolution does not have the ability to create the higher taxa of the biosphere. 5. So, naturalistic mega-evolution is false.
6. The scientific evidence confirms intelligent design for the creation of the higher taxa, kingdom, phylum, class, order, followed by adaptation with certain limits to form lower species and genera inside each local bush of descent. 7. The scientific literature confirms polyphyly over monophyly. This falsifies naturalistic mega-evolution and confirms the intelligent design model mentioned above. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe, and comment below if you agree or would like to add your thoughts.